These are my pajamas, okay? This is just a happy accident. Yeah, no cosplay for this today. It does not deserve it. I am late because I'm legitimately nauseous.
I'm John Kadolf, 1/4 of an element of us three blokes. And I let this film affect me just a little too much.
I'm gonna punch you in the face just for saying that.
No, I was just leading into John because I wanted him to give us some. So basically, he and I made a short film in the 90s called Bags, where he directed it and wrote it basically on the spot. And I just kind of pointed a camera at him. So I photographed it.
We
you did
filmed
not
this.
point a camera at him. You were the cinematographer.
I was and I did some pretty interesting widescreen cinematography on that. So
Yeah.
But it was the John Kadolf show through and through, and I just want him to provide some context for why we gave this movie a little bit of a pass the first time.
All right. Well, so we decided to go down to a busy street where there was one of the bus stop shelters, and basically I had bags. I had plastic bags with me, and lots of them. And Joel, one of our friends, was he was another basic, like a prop in the movie. And
was he also a bag?
No, he came and sat down next to me, and he's like,
he was the straight man to your comedy.
Yeah, he was like, what's with all the bags, man? And I'm like, don't talk about my bags. They're my bags. And
you got very emotional. You had actual tears in your eyes.
I started like crying at one point. I got angry. I went through all the emotions.
Just like this guy.
Just like this guy. And it was all about the bag.
I don't hear anything.
I was going to say he cut out. It was getting to the brilliant climax.
Yeah, you were about to tell us the most important part of the story, and then you stopped.
Oh yeah, well, okay. So it was. Sorry, the dogs are actually howling upstairs right now. I'm surprised you can't hear that.
I can't.
I don't know that I'll ever be able to stop hearing dogs now after this.
Yeah. And anyway, so the character ended up much like the character in this movie, except obviously less unhinged and disturbing. So that's why John and I gave this movie more of a pass than we probably would have.
Or should have.
Damon Packard.
We all make mistakes when we're young.
Yeah, 5 months ago.
Yeah.
Damon Packard came into an inheritance. He was a filmmaker already, low budget, but he came into an inheritance, decided to make a movie. He shot a lot of it on the street, stole a lot of shots of people without their permission, used a lot of footage from a lot of movies without the permission of any of the filmmakers, music, all kinds of stuff. There is kind of an anarchic glee in the fact that you don't know what's going to happen next, but there's such an unhinged level of rage in this movie that anyone who watches it becomes full of rage.
You will become a rage monster by watching this.
Yes.
Not only is it like repeatedly used, it's near continuous. Like there are very few breaks, and like at the point in say another movie that's more linear, that's kind of a horror or a suspense thriller. Yes, they'll have those moments of like continued rage where you get up to a certain point and then something else will happen to not necessarily diffuse it, but at least
Gives you a
shift,
breather.
but just this whole fucking time, just
The level of stress that this movie creates while you're watching it is almost at a panic level attack for the entirety of the film. It creates this anxiety and pressure and stress that could only, I mean, I would actually venture to say that someone who watched this film a couple, 3-4 times could develop PTSD from it, because it is so,
I think that's not really an exaggeration.
yeah, it is so horrifically
It's
bad
overwhelming.
and overwhelming with just sheer insanity and nonsensical application of human depravity that
fuck this movie.
yes.
Sorry. So we all agree it's a press
He just
eject.
couldn't take it anymore. He's like,
Oh, it's a press eject.
But
Yeah,
Is it-
do not watch this film.
but is it mythos approved? We can be
No.
an eject and still
yeah, no, who said
no.
this?
Running with
He's
the
clearly
theory
an
that
elder
Damon
god
Packard
because
walking
he's
down
like,
the street was actually some kind of elder god, because every time he's walking down the street, people just randomly start losing their shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just massively.
Yeah. Well, yeah, actually it is kind of mythos approved, because yeah, you're right. He did have a maddening effect on people where they'd start, God
Damn. Stop.
that's what all the dogs were trying
have
to
to-
say to
have to
Packard as he kept filming them again and again and again. Stop!
You have to. I think Kat mentioned the scene where the woman was swinging the chain at him as being a moment of danger, but I thought there was a scene where looking a Rottweiler was extremely close to biting this shit.
yeah. Yeah, it almost bit him.
That one passed by pretty quickly, and like there was at least another entity involved there, because a lot of times these clashes of violence that happen throughout the film are almost always between like two people, or sometimes there's two against Bob, like in the case of the cops. And you could, I suppose, maybe count I think the woman was driving a Jeep and she had like a German Shepherd in the back, who was barking, going crazy at Bob, and she was circling around and yelling at it. Just the amount of times that people utter the phrase, "I'm gonna fucking kill you," "I'll fucking kill you," just some version of that is staggering. Like I guess he couldn't try to go for the gold on how many times you could say fuck in the movie, because Kevin Smith and Quentin have already done that, but
you're an amateur. Damon Packard. Quentin Tarantino's an amateur at profanity next to Damon Packard.
Yeah, you're right, Kat, though. The amount of times that "I'm gonna fucking kill you" is uttered in this movie, I think, is one of the stressors, because I actually had to take breaks, like watching it the second time. I had to take several breaks.
I even took 2 breaks.
Even watching it on Tubi with the ads.
Yeah, even with the ads,
Like,
I had to.
I was literally reaching a point with the ads that from time to time I would be sitting there. Ads will begin in 8. Please go faster. 7. Faster. 6.
Yeah.
That ads. Yes, ads.
So there's one segment of this movie that I kind of dig as a film geek, and I'll just
because you're a horrible human being.
No.
Let him get it out. Let him get it out.
I just want to say that I hate the movie, but there are things about it that I do like. And the thing that I like is the sequence where he's flashing back to himself as a child, and his sister gets off the tour bus in Universal and goes to the set of Something Evil, which is a deep cut on Spielberg filmography, because that movie's never been released on DVD.
There's a lot of shade.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shade in this movie.
Well, the reason this is and it is two levels of shade there, because Spielberg's origin story is that he got off the Universal tour bus to meet the head of Universal on the Universal tour. So this is sort of Damon Packard imagining himself in the same or his sister in the same situation and not succeeding. So I think this whole movie is sort of his rage at not being Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, I honestly get the impression that this whole thing stems from I think he believes that Steven Spielberg stole his spot in Hollywood. You know, and
Thank fucking God. Oh,
yeah,
Yes.
I
seriously.
don't know that I've seen any other Damon Packard films. The rest of them, besides this one, are short, aren't they?
Yeah,
I don't think he has any other feature
saw-
length.
Well, I saw almost feature length one, Fox Fur, which is an hour long, and it's much less confrontational. It's much less disturbing. It has some of the same techniques in it, but so
Dan, you told me to watch that,
I did tell you to watch because
and I flat out refused.
well, I'm glad you didn't. Actually,
I
if you watch
flat out
it,
refused.
if you had watched it first, this movie may not have hurt so much.
Because there would have been something to compare it to.
You would have
honestly,
seen
I
him
can't.
as a character rather than, is this guy really like this?
Yeah, well, you know.
Dave's got something to say. Sorry.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
No, Dave doesn't have something to say.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, wait,
Dave.
no,
Doesn't have
Dave
anything
does
to
have
say?
something to say.
So
Fuck this movie, fuck reality, fuck everything.
It is the singularity that has sucked up all joy from my life.
I'm so
It's
sorry.
destroyed everything. It
I
is
hope
the turd made of antimatter and MAGA hats. Fuck this.
I find it really hard to compare this film to any other thing I've seen on screen. I guess, and the thing is, I haven't seen these films, but just from what I've read about them, I think the only things that a person could compare the depravity to is like Human Centipede or a Serbian film.
That's
And-
weird because
No, a Serbian film actually had a point, kind
but
of.
if you think about it, this movie achieves that without much actual on-screen violence. Everything is sort of just threats and screaming. And
You've seen a Serbian film, right?
I will
No.
never watch that movie. I won't put myself because I
Is
know
that
what
what it's
happens in it.
called? A Serbian film?
Yeah,
That is
I-
the name of the film.
I have
will-
not even encountered that before.
Okay, you know the new.
Don't.
We're going to
Don't
talk
even
about
look it up.
movies for a second.
Yeah, don't look it up.
Don't even look it up. I'm
It will
serious.
scar. No, just knowing what happens in the film will scar you, and you'll have nightmares about
Yeah,
it.
so I will not watch it. But Dave, go ahead. It deserves academic discussion. I
Like
guess.
a Serbian film actually has a point and a functionality
Yeah.
to it. That okay, is it a pleasant watch? Oh fuck no. It ends horribly. Horrible things happen in it, but at the same time, it's about basically how an entire country and an entire culture has been exploited from the ground up. And also, it at least has certain technical merits to it that I have to respect. This film, okay, I can see his point. It is shot through with a great deal of misanthropy. It is shot through with an immense amount of self-hatred. It speaks to a lot of the things that he genuinely hates about the world and how the world is reflected in his eyes. I get that. Okay. He just sucks at doing it. He's not very... the overdubbing all the way through this is probably because of the fact that he shot with an ambient mic all the way through it and had to overdub everything.
I think that's true.
I thought that was part of the rage-inducing point of it.
I thought that was
Like
part of the
the sound
aesthetic.
hurts on surround sound.
Yeah.
I had to turn it way down.
Well, I think she was a ghost, but I think he also was a non-human entity of some sort,
Mhm.
because he actually died when he was 5.
He died in 1994. Yeah, during the ET ride, right?
Yeah, during the ET ride. So he was not a human entity in the movie even.
Do you? I because I have not actually watched like the last 10-ish minutes of it.
Okay.
They do finally show him like just straight up dying.
No, his sister explains to him that he died on a ride in 1994 on the ET ride, and that he is in the afterlife. And then they drive into a tunnel that looks like it comes from a Roadrunner cartoon, and it says "to be continued," like a Back to the Future sequel. So I
gotta wait for another relative to die before we get that.
Yeah, the first time I watched this, I couldn't tell if he was really brilliant and commenting on all this kind of hatred, or if he was consumed with it himself. But one of the things that really troubled me and sort of put it in between those two things is all the chemtrail nonsense and the,
and if that was the point, that is the place where I will start to like push back. Like, not gonna lie, this absolutely had me at my limit and probably a little bit past of my whole making art doesn't necessarily have to end in something good or something beautiful. It doesn't necessarily have to have point philosophy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, but also if there was a point to it and it was a commentary on honestly anything, but especially where did it go? Especially if the whole point is to, like, look at the depravity of humanity. Look how awful and angry and disgusting and fat everyone is. And then making it like a ghost or making it unhuman if he is in fact supposed to be some sort of elder god that just enrages people the closer he gets to them. That ruins the point if that was the point, because the point is that all of those things do exist within humanity, and slapping a monster mask on it, it's a disservice to like bringing up the idea at all.
Well, the whole movie has got that 70s. There's a lot of 70s TV, ABC TV ads, and like commercials and all kinds of. So it's almost
a weirdly fun part of the movie.
I'm seeing those and I'm having pleasant memories of my childhood, and then that motherfucker appears on screen again. Fuck him.
These are some of the quotes found on the back of the VHS box.
In
other words, this is what John.
That was my quote.
An insane, rage-filled pile of slop and copyright infringement, vomited up by a disturbed amateur and delivered up by a psychopathic ex-clown on a broken bicycle.
Yes.
After watching a second time and somehow enjoying it the first time, I have now decided I hate it, would cross the street if approaching Damon Packard. Let's see. If depravity and rage vomit are your kink, grab a bottle of lube, darken the lights, put the kids to bed, and send your friends home. And imagine removing 90% of discernible plot and filling it with hate, rage, vomit, copyright infringement, plastic bags, and exploding heads, and you have reflections of evil.
Okay, so am I the only one that laughed at the fact that every time he fell, his brain spilled out of his head?
I was happy.
Did that continue to happen? I know that happened like 5 times in the first 20 minutes. Did that keep happening?
No, it stopped after that.
Okay, here's a good one. I did not have my eyes on the screen the entire time. I might have actually vomited instead of just now feeling nauseous. If I had my eyes on the screen the entire time.
Wow. So I'm sorry, all of you. I'm sorry.
No. See, like. Again, this is definitely
at my fucking limit. Bad. You should feel terrible.
You're a bad person, and you should feel bad. Wait, real quick. So these little quotes that you're throwing in there in the chat, were those actual reviews that like people have said about this movie? I thought people were just riffing.
No, these are actual reviews that people have said about the movie. Here's another one. Upon completion of the film, I immediately broke my television, stabbed myself in the leg with a broken chicken bone, and burned down my house. I'm now living on the streets, consumed with collecting bags. Well, another person wrote, I think someone owes me a dose of incurable syphilis for this. I would at least enjoy getting that as I slowly went mad.
So John has been reduced to using Fox News tactics in introducing these reviews to our video because they're all things that we wrote about it.
Yes.
Okay, well, I don't know, Dave. What was the one that you said? Artisan the
I have no hope. Fuck you! Fuck you! Die! You capitalistic head exploding loud eating piece of shit!
But that's the equivalent of John what he just did reading those reviews. They were the equivalent of what Fox News does when they say some people say, and then they say what they want to say.
Right.
So,
Because they're the ones saying it.
I'm just like Dan.
So
Dan has
we can
things he wants
see.
to say, but like this film has just infected Dave to the point of
this
it
film
worked.
proves its point by making everyone
it
who
worked
watches
on
it.
Dave.
Yes, it worked a lot. Hey, it should get a positive review from you, Dave, because it does what it's set out to do.
Yeah. Here's a
I want to
fairly
make everyone around me as angry as I feel. How
Here's
dare
a-
you be happy when I feel this way?
Here's a review that is actually somewhat intelligible, as if the person who wrote it didn't necessarily descend into a pit of despair. If you haven't experienced years of solid continuous rage and or mental health issues, particularly ones that feature overwhelmingly loud thoughts of auditory hallucinations, you are not going to get this film. And you'll end up taking out your inexplicable anger on the next poor service industry worker you encounter, even though it'll be days later that you manage to drag yourself back out into public. That's so true. And if you do have the anger issues and or shrieking brain cells to get this film, please don't fucking watch it. Go make your own stream of consciousness ode to everything humanly awful. Watch it once with everyone who helped make it, and then burn every copy of the film and its original footage. The masses won't understand your brilliance anyway.
That's
yes,
probably the best hot take of the.
Yeah,
well,
that definitely is.
I wonder who wrote that.
Again,
I don't know.
I thought
Some
we
scholar.
were riffing. That's what I wrote.
That was brilliant.
Some scholar wrote that.
And it was your own stream of consciousness ode to everything humanly awful, because that's what this entire fucking thing is, with fucking no reprieve.
I was gonna say that I've left things in a toilet bowl that were better than this film, but it makes me really want to apologize to the concept of shit in general. Okay, the Serbian film, for example, I'm going to use that as a great comparison because it's a film that a lot of people hate, and for good reason.
In fact, Dave said that we will fear no movie on this show, and I said there are two movies I will never watch. One is a Serbian film, and the other is Salo, 120 Days of Sodom, because I don't want anyone.
And those are
recommend those. I'm out.
Yeah, those are art films designed to push the outside edge of the extreme to get people's attention, but they at least have a fundamental element of being shot with a degree of technical prowess where you have to respect that. This is one of those films where I'm like, okay, I have a certain enjoyment of a film that is shot in an amateurish way, but there's a genuine sense that the filmmakers are doing this because it is a act of I don't know how to make a film, but I love this entire concept and I want to do it. And I love that energy. I will forever love movies like that.
Did anyone?
But to me, this is a film where it's I have no idea of how to shoot a film, and I hate everyone and everything, and therefore I must make you feel pain and make you suffer all the way through it. But because I have suffered for my art, and God damn it, now you will too.
But didn't this movie? One positive thing I want to see if this resonates with anyone. Maybe I'm the only one. Did anyone watch this movie and get inspired to take a camera outside and just get that shot that is extremely unlikely in a movie?
Because I sat down and I went, I could sit down and literally I messaged everybody and said, when you guys come to Omaha, we are definitely going to shoot a stream of consciousness film. But you know what?
No,
a lot of it is simply because of the fact that I'm flipping two birds at this motherfucking movie.
So as if nothing else, this movie has given us an idea of where we would like to go and where we would like to not go.
See, and that right there is what informs that whole philosophy I talked about earlier. Like, I watch a lot of garbage and I read a lot of garbage, like here and there and everywhere. And there are certain films, like, it's trash, but it's my trash. It is not garbage. It is garbage. There's for a medium that, you know, people are personally invested in, not just the story, not just the, you know, finished work as itself, but the, you know, whole art form of it. We, I think, are willing to give a lot of leeway to films that would make other people who aren't super passionate, super interested in it, like, we're willing to give it a lot of leeway, I think. And as I said, though, this really fucking pushed my limits. Like, I don't even know that I can watch this and say, like, well, at least it brought up some good questions. Was it the best thing in the world? No, but not everything has to be the best thing in the world. I like that it spurred conversation. I just feel angry and upset, and I want to take a nap.
I just want to hug. I want to hug
my
all of you.
Squishmallow kitty?
Did John?
I really wish that I didn't have a migraine so that I could drink myself into a day nap.
Sorry,
this also tested our burgeoning friendship, Dan.
I'm sorry.
I'm kidding.
I will be recommending some films that will hopefully restore your faith in me.
No.
believe-
Like, people are giving you a really rough time, and I want them to back off a little bit.
No, I won't. Fuck you, Ken.
Oh my god.
Okay. So you were saying, you know, does it inspire you to take a camera out and blah, blah, blah? Yeah, it really did. It inspired me to take my camera outside and smash it into a million pieces so that I could never
How could you be capable of such wickedness?
Yeah, and never actually create something this depraved and nonsensical to inflict upon everyone else. And this being me who says this after all the stuff we've made,
yeah, me and John,
over the years,
God, yeah.
this
well, we've never made
comparison.
anything that intended to hurt anyone.
No.
Somewhere
And therein,
there is the mime
intent.
skit.
The intent.
Oh.
That's what really makes
There
it.
is the mime
So
skit.
there is one skit that John and I made, which is hilarious and kind of approaches this level of insanity, but only for 5 minutes. We don't inflict it for 2 hours and 11 minutes, where John basically he's playing a character who's kind of nuts, a serial killer who kills mimes. And he rants for like 5 minutes, and it's hilarious and one of the best things he's ever done. And we won't show it to anyone because we're afraid they'll think he's like that.
It's what it says.
Where?
You kill mimes.
Where does it say this? Show me. Is it over in those books over there?
Fucking books.
Show me.
Fucking books.
Where does it say?
Books. Fucking books. Fuck books. Fuck books. You understand what I'm fucking saying? Fuck books.
And you never know.
And
Maybe Damon Packard is the same way. Maybe he has that same level of desire to create something like that, and then worries that if someone sees it, well, no, he doesn't worry if somebody sees it. They're going to think he's that way.
No, he actually mails this movie to celebrities he doesn't like.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, no, I read, I want to say it was either on Bleeding Skull or the American Genre Film Archive. He mails DVDs of this movie to celebrities. They didn't specify whether he liked them or not, and then records their reactions on his website.
Oh, okay. Because their reactions have been less than positive, I assume that meant that he didn't.
No shit, really?
The whole movie does seem shot through with the kind of anger that has been in film criticism post Spielberg and Lucas, because everything after Spielberg and Lucas is, they ruined the 70s aesthetic. They made the everything before Spielberg was The Godfather and then Spielberg came along and now everything's a blockbuster. Yeah, there's probably some truth to that, but Spielberg himself Spielberg's actually been quite an auteur. I mean, to think that he's made Schindler's List, Munich, AI, these are not which you would typically consider commercial films by any other filmmaker, but because it's got the Spielberg name, it's a
Oh, that reminds me. I should sit down and watch Schindler's List after this to cheer me the fuck up after watching this movie.
Well, that's another thing that one of the reasons why I absolutely cannot give this a press play is because of the way it treats that film.
Yeah, the
Very
anti-Semitism,
gross.
the anti-Semitism in this film is just as loud as Damon Packard.
But yeah, there's that. There's all of the, and there's a lot of troublesome racist language in the movie that I had problems with, and
Yeah, it
all
didn't
sorts of stuff.
necessarily seem to have a purpose other than to be like the whole sequence with the cop, the singular racist homophobic cop,
Yeah. Who
you
may or
know,
may not actually be a cop.
poking and prodding at Bob, and basically just riffing on for like 5 fucking minutes, which is it's just basically a drop the soap joke, and it's not a good one.
If
Like,
the point of
that joke sucks in general, but
if the point of
even
that
worse.
scene were to punch up, it would be making fun of the cop, but it seemed to be using the cop to make cheap punch down jokes.
yeah, I didn't love it.
I didn't love it either. So yeah,
I don't know if
I
it's-
feel like I've been on a whole bunch of theme park rides, and like I'm not so nauseous that I could vomit, because at least if I vomited, there would be some relief. But it's that state where you're like approaching that level of nausea, but you're not there, and so you just like try to sit in the shade and breathe deeply, but you're still just so fucking nauseous.
I don't know if it's coincidence or not, but I was getting that really heavy stone in my stomach the whole time I was watching. As I was watching, it was growing heavier and heavier, and then about 10 minutes after I stopped the film, or the film ended itself, I got the shits.
everybody offer one thing you liked about the movie, if you liked anything at all. I'm not trying to push it out of you if it's not there.
The credits.
If okay, so Dave didn't like anything. John, did you like anything?
Okay, the guru
I
sequence was actually good. I apologize.
Okay,
Sorry, John.
I liked the fact that the lighter parts of this movie were akin to a lot of the weird stuff we've shot in our past. That was really the only thing that I I took from this as any kind of positive, is that somebody basically took what we do to an apocalyptic extreme, and actually put it out there and self-distributed it.
Yeah. Kat, is there anything about this movie that you did like?
Yes, actually.
Okay, what is it?
And it's not a snarky answer either. It's actually it's actually genuine.
Yeah.
And I still haven't remembered what my genuine like bust out laugh was. Like it was some line, and I genuinely felt a little bit of relief, and
Yeah.
like, but I don't remember what it was, because
But it's
everything
funny.
that happened like in the next 2 minutes, it made me forget it. But the thing that I genuinely like about this movie is and unfortunately I don't know if it's original music or if it's a stolen soundtrack, like a lot of the music in this movie is, which, by the way, there is a thing that I hate. How dare you fucking stain the Carpenters like this?
Yes.
There is no music from the Carpenters that is not pure and wholesome. Fuck you.
Yeah.
That's my one bit of anger that I will dish out here directly at the filmmaker, is because yeah, sure, juxtaposition is one thing, but this is horrible.
Yeah.
It belittles the homeless people that it is playing over, and it belittles the Carpenters. God damn it.
To me, in that scene, he's wearing the headset and playing the music to escape from everything that's around him. So I'll give him that one small kernel of.
See, and if that's what was going on, I completely missed it. So fair play. Because that actually makes sense. So fair enough. It still feels tawdry.
What do I like? I liked the fact that someone acknowledged the movie Something Evil, which is a Spielberg movie that I've been championing for years and trying to get on film. I liked seeing him film in the same location where the chase in E.T. happened, and it's staging his own chase. That's pretty brazen.
With the music.
With the music. Oh, Jesus.
I was going to say, it wasn't even just an homage. Like,
no, it was.
Rip.
Yeah.
Scribble out, write in own name with red crayon.
Yes. I admire the grindhouse approach that anything can happen at any moment, and I don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But as a film, it doesn't work. It steps all over everything that I hold dear and love in the universe and the world. Spielberg is one of my heroes. E.T. is like one of my favorite movies, and he just shit all over it.
I was gonna say, did it feel like a personal attack?
It didn't the first time, because I was just really excited to see, oh my God, he's filming on
Just
the same neighborhood.
Everything happening.
And then seeing there's so much coming at you that first time if you're not like watching it with
stone sober.
Yeah. That you're kind of bowled over by the audacity of it.
Yeah.
But when you watch it a second time, you realize that, man, if you really meant anything, you would have sat down and made a movie that didn't sabotage itself. You wouldn't have focused, to quote The Last Jedi, another movie that gets a lot of hate that I think is a masterpiece. You would focus on the things you love rather than all the shit you hate.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, I think this is sort of a film about stunted genius, because I think he could have made something really special here.
And I think that's what he's so angry about in life, is that he thinks that he should have just been handed the break to make what he considered his brilliance.
With these same techniques and with the same budget, he could have done that instead.
Yeah, he could have, instead of creating a hate film.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, you and I know that we could make something pretty fucking awesome, including Dave and Kat. I mean, the four of us putting our minds together to actually make a film, we could actually make something really fucking cool.
Maybe that's part of what hurts so badly about watching this, is because there's good ideas in there, and it has the potential to say a lot. What did I say? Is it trying to say something about homelessness, about society's disgust with fatness, about modern living, about forced invisibility? Like, that's what I kept coming back to, the being forced into being invisible, and similar with how kind of Julie is a ghost now, or they both are apparently, because that's something that almost every person experiencing homelessness goes through. Is this something about willfully ignoring what's in front of you, that old couple that is constantly watching the boob tube? Or is it about hyper focus? Is it actively trying to not say something, like, fuck you guys all trying to say something with your movie, I'm gonna not say anything? Or is it just irrational anger at everything and then cut and pasted because suddenly money was there?
It feels like
it is disappointing that this is what came out of that. You could have put this into something that was weird and wonderful, and the mainstream might not have gotten it, but it could have meant something. And instead, you're just bitching at me for 2 hours.
And again, I think that Kat really hit the nail on the head when they said all of that, because to me, I'm sitting here going, there's a lot of subjects that you could make something about. You could make something very interesting about all the things that you've touched upon. I mean, I have been to the point where I have not been technically homeless. I haven't been sleeping on the streets, but I have, couch surfed a number of, friends' house places over time. And I understand the experience. I understand the anger that goes with it, and the sense of hollowness that comes along with all of that. But at the same time, here it's more a matter of him just sitting there screaming about his set and circumstances and not noticing or not caring or having some element of anything that would either get him out of it or explain how he got into it.
He's literally that person at the bus stop that won't stop talking to you about Jesus
Or bags.
or bags or
Well, now see, I was going to say something about that. By the
Okay.
way, I'd be interested to hear where you came up with that concept, because most homeless people do carry everything they own with them
Mhm.
for a reason. It's because if they leave it anywhere or try
Oh,
to hide
yes,
it anywhere,
yes.
it's going to
their
get
shit's gonna
fucking
be gone.
stolen.
And I gotta. Oh no.
It's a state. To be fair, I'll say this.
Mhm.
I would bet you that there are tons of people, especially men, who are experiencing homelessness right now and have been for years and years and years, who this movie is absolutely a look into what their fucking days are like.
Mhm.
Because
And maybe that's what this whole thing was. Maybe this is what
the
he
constant
experienced.
stress and
Yeah.
anxiety of cops coming and
Mhm.
giving you shit, of
Yeah.
people in their homes saying, "You're scaring Timmy."
Mhm.
That maybe that was no,
Maybe
that
we
wasn't
hit
the
on
thing
the
that made me
point
laugh.
accidentally
That
there.
made me smile a little bit, but it didn't make me bust out laughing.
Maybe we accidentally hit on the point there. I don't know.
I mean, it's
be.
possible
I
that this is an insight into his brain while he was homeless, or maybe other homeless people he befriended while he was homeless, who saw the world from that perspective,
Mhm.
where every time they fell down, it was as if they had their head smashed open. And every time a cop approached them, it was like they were talking to them like that, or every one of them was reflecting on the way that their parents treated them when they were young and why they hate everything.
Again, you can make things that are designed to make people uncomfortable, to make them wrestle with emotions that they don't want to wrestle with. That's a thing. You can do that.
Yeah.
But it seems like you're just wanting them to do it to know that you caused them pain,
Yeah,
rather than
that's
have them reflect on how they're living their lives, how they treat other people, and maybe they will do differently going forward. Was that?
Well, I was gonna say maybe that's why I wonder if he had maybe those aims and didn't reach them, or like I know that Ebert and Siskel were talking about. I was watching some Siskel and Ebert interview where they're talking about. Dave Letterman asked Ebert, "Is there ever a movie that you thought was good but that you hated?" And he goes, "Well, I just saw this movie. I don't remember the name of it, but it reflected nothing I believed in. But I found it extremely entertaining, and I was engaged by it." And he said, "I didn't know what to do with that, because it was compelling, but it was like everything that I did not like believe as a person." And Siskel said, "Well, then for me that's a good movie."
Mm-hmm.
Because so there's two different ways to look at that. Siskel says that's a good movie. Ebert says, "I don't know if that's a good movie." That's kind of where I sit with this, because I can't take my eyes off of it, but I hate everything about it while while looking at it. So
Yeah.
I like to think that there are movies there are better movies to watch that aim for the same thing that this potentially aims for.
This is not great art.
And again, I think there are like shitty movies that try to aim for some of the things that we've talked about. And even though it's, not a fucking work of art, it still does accomplish those things, because I mean, that is part of the skill of filmmaking, is how does one communicate really complex abstract ideas with visuals and sound and motif.
There's a book, I don't remember, I read it like 20 years ago, where this guy talks about how this as a thought experiment, you dig up, you find this thing that looks like something's buried, so you dig it up and you read it, and it's the most psychotic thing you've ever read, and you're like, should I report this to the police? And he goes, stop and think about this. Is this something somebody wrote as a confession, or is this something somebody wrote to get it out of their system and then they didn't go do these things?
To me, I think that to me is one of those where, look, we all have those moments where we have our internal darkness and we sit there and we express it in some particular method or manner. To me, I think, okay, I am going to give this film way too much intellectual credit by doing this, but give me a second. Marshall McLuhan made the comment about how the medium is the message. And the idea that the medium that you use is inherently part of how it is that the message is both perceived and how it is that the message in and of itself exists as a means of conveying information. And to me, I'm watching the way that he uses the medium. And I think that my biggest, most vicious argument about this is that you can see the moments where you knew he was going for something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the juxtaposition of the 70s stuff versus the 90s stuff versus this, his anger, his ability to see everything, but it was so wrapped up in his own internal self-hatred that the message again came across as incoherent screaming rather than, it's that moment where you sit there, anybody who's ever used the soundboard, Kat and I have both gone through this particular mess as early as 2 weeks ago, where you sit there and you turn the preamp gain up to such a level that the signal that goes into everything else is so distorted that it might as well not exist in terms of a means of conveying information. And that is the film in and of itself. He turned up all of his anger into the film and passed it on to us. Going through this,
I think that's a valid thing that he gave us anger without any mechanisms for understanding it.
We've come to
anymore.
I think we've come to.
I think I will maybe
I'm gonna
never
go listen
be
to
angry
Broken
again
by
in
Nine
my
Inch
life
Nails to relax.
because I have had enough for the entirety of my days.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
So I think I think we've come to the brick wall on this now.
So press
And
eject on this.
Press
side.
eject. Everyone else, I think, felt the same.
Press eject and press go fuck yourself immediately afterward.
Kat, any final thoughts? So John was in the middle of a thought. I'm sorry.
I actually forgot to finish my thought about the one thing that I liked because I suddenly remembered the thing about the Carpenter song and I was so mad. But the one thing that I liked was in the opening, which again, like I was ready. I'm like, I don't know what this is. I watched like 10, 15 seconds of the trailer and did not feel great about it. But the opening, I was kind of into it. The music that was playing, whether it was an original soundtrack or something that was yanked out of another movie, what came to mind was it was like a light jazz combo of the Dark Crystal and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And I don't know why those were the two things that collided together, but I guess thanks for that, Damon. That being said, press eject. As I said in my incredibly long and apparently very scholarly, according to John,
and me,
you don't. Most people do not need to watch this. It's you're either like just not gonna get it, and it's just gonna be kind of a thing like I don't know what this is or why I'm looking at it, so I'm just gonna leave. And if you do stick around for a little while, you are going to end up being angry.